we thought that we actually talk about a lot of good games lately. So we thought about changing the formula a little bit and talk about rip-offs, not super good game which sells a lot, but which of course got copies and either really badly made or well made when surpassed the original game. So that's what we're gonna talk about today.
So
True.
two last things before we go. The first one is PlayStation Now cards are being taken off shelves, so you are not going to be able to renew your PlayStation Now subscriptions. Why? Well, a lot of people are speculating that this means that that PlayStation Now is going to be fused with PlayStation Plus, and so that is going to be merged into whatever Spartacus is. And yeah, this is going to be the new Game Pass competitor, and so because of that, they're not going to be allowing people to renew PlayStation Now because it's not going to exist on its own anymore. It's going to become part of PlayStation Plus. So that ought to be interesting. Also, what's interesting is apparently people have found some PlayStation 3 games listed on PlayStation, I believe PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, somewhere. So that's interesting because normally you couldn't play PlayStation 3 games on the 4 or 5. It didn't have that backwards compatibility. So the question is, are these going to be part of this new service? And that's why they are going to be on there. Because they're going to be part of this new service as kind of a Game Pass kind of thing, or is there going to be an emulation coming out at some point, and we're going to be able to get access to our PS3 games? I don't know, but if we do, that's going to be awesome because that means I get to play Mod Nation Racer again. And in the last bit
Absolutely.
of news, Xbox ended production of the Xbox One. PlayStation is ramping it up. And the reasoning is, I mean, Xbox obviously stopped because they want to focus on the newest console generation. But unfortunately, the newest console generation is not able to meet demand. And so apparently the PS4 is still selling pretty well. In Japan last year, 2021, the PS4 outsold the Xbox One X and S combined. I mean, that's Japan, so that's not a worldwide thing. But there's still apparently a strong enough demand for the PS4. Now, reports had said that Sony was planning to end production in 2021 of the PS4. But because they cannot meet the production of PS5, they are ramping up production of PS4. Now, a lot of people are wondering, that doesn't make sense. If you can't make enough PS5s, why are you making more PS4s? You should be focusing on PS5s. But the thing is, PS4 is a pretty old technology, and the bottleneck for the PS5 is not the factory space or anything like that. It's the components. We can't get those components. And those components are the newer, more, fancier components. PS4 doesn't use those. So ramping up PS4 production in no way impacts PS5 production because the bottleneck is not the amount of production the factories. It's the components. But this is actually beneficial to the PS5 because Sony originally had contracts with these factories to produce PS5s. If they're not producing PS5s, they're not living up to their end of the contracts, which means that they become invalid and other companies can buy out this factory space to be using for their own things, cell phones or whatever. So by ramping up PS4 production, Sony is able to maintain contracts with these factories, which means that if components for PS5 do become more readily available, it'll be they're already going to have contracts in place that they're going to be able to develop this. So that is part of the reason why they are ramping up PS4 production. So it might seem counterintuitive, but there is actually a good reason for it. So I thought that was kind of interesting because
I
yeah.
just want to add one little thing is that it's hard to say, Japan is the home of Sony, and Japan is very much a PlayStation country.
Oh,
So
definitely.
even in that case, yeah, Xbox would still be extremely low compared to Sony. So it's hard to generalize this situation
Right.
across the globe if you just take Japan, because Japan is definitely a Sony market. So
Yeah, actually, I think the only market where Xbox competes fairly well with Sony is the U.S. because even Europe, I think, is predominantly still PlayStation. If I've
yes, I
yeah,
think
so
so.
but
But
yeah, they, they
Xbox is
did they
ramping
did
up.
specifically mention Japan. They didn't mention Europe. So the fact that they didn't mention
Right.
Europe, I think that the Xbox, I think the X series and the S series outsold the PS4. It definitely in America. Um, Possibly also because and that's one thing that's I think too is I mean who does not have a PS4 by now? I mean, come on, really? Like unless you're replacing it. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised that there's still a demand. I would have thought that people who wanted them would have had them by now, but I don't know. Who knows? But apparently there's a demand for it. So yeah, if there's a demand, there's money to be made. If there's money to be made, might as well use the factories. All right, so that is the end of the news today, and that is the end of the episode. Oops, I should close that. All right.